Welcome back, TCS viewers. It is Chris and Jordan here again for another After Dark special. And tonight we're going to have a conversation about Nikon and Canon and how they're sort of fitting in the industry nowadays.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, they're the biggest names by far in the industry,
Sure.
and we haven't seen anything innovative in a while.
Yeah, you know, how are they fitting into today's industry with the whole mirrorless market and the downswing in SLRs? We're going to talk about that. We're going to have differing opinions, and I'm not sure there's going to be some disagreements.
Guaranteed, yes.
But what else is coming up?
Well, we've got some more videos coming out. You can see behind us in the shadows there, we have some lovely drones.
Yes, the scary black drone back there, and the Phantoms, the DJIs we're carrying, and that'll be a fun video. We're going to do that, and I get to fish a bit.
I just have to learn to fly.
Yes, and I have to learn to fish.
And
What's the last camera you think from Canon that was quite exciting?
I mean, honestly, it would probably be going back to the 5D Mark II, because that started the whole DSLR video revolution.
Huge. Hollywood started using them, shooting them, TV shows.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, it did change the industry. I would say for Nikon, D800. It was such a big switch in their ideology, because before it was all low megapixels, low light performance was number one, and then out of nowhere they're like, you know what, forget it. Let's do the highest megapixel camera on the market, and it was great. It was successful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I kind of feel like the D800 was what we expected from the Canon 5D
Sure.
Mark III, and the Mark III was what we expected from the D800. They both kind of switched their thinking in their full frame cameras.
So, yeah, I think what we should do then is maybe talk about our ideas. You know, Photokina is coming up.
Yep.
That's going to be a big show. What are our opinions on what Nikon and Canon should do to revamp their industries and kind of get more with 2014, get with the current market?
Just to make a camera that we would be excited about.
Exactly. I mean, what's the biggest exciting trend right now in the industry?
It's definitely mirrorless in photography, a place where both of them are kind of lagging behind.
Sure.
So, I mean, let's start with that.
Absolutely. Now, it's interesting when we talk about the industry and the mirrorless industry in general, because I know the articles, the journalism, the internet in general, they're saying, oh, mirrorless isn't that big a deal. Certainly the companies are playing it down.
Yep.
You know, it's not a big deal. People aren't really interested, but there's a big difference from what the story is online and out in the media compared to the story that we see on the ground floor selling to actual customers.
Right. I mean, the excitement is about mirrorless cameras. It's not often people come in and say, I've got to see this new SLR that just got announced. It's, I want to see, the new Fuji or the new Sony cameras.
Absolutely. And it's the sales staff that are really now pushing the mirrorless too. And it makes sense because for most people, it is a better tool. I want one. I think it makes more sense.
So Canon and Nikon both have mirrorless options.
They do, and this has been an issue, right? We've talked about this. We've said like the Canon EOS M. We'll talk about that in a bit. But what they tried to do there, really not wanting to hurt their SLR market.
Right.
And it was funny. Nikon, when they came out with their one system, at first I thought this is stupid. It's a tiny sensor. It's ridiculous. And we just thought, oh, okay, Nikon, they're not trying to compete with their SLR market. Now that I look back on it, it does actually kind of seem fairly smart because they came up with this new system that doesn't hurt their SLR market, but is still unique, right?
I mean, yeah, it's a camera for everyday people. It's fast auto-focusing. The quality is good enough for most people.
Sure.
But my issue with that is that would be a great move for someone who's not Canon or Nikon to do. The strength of Canon and Nikon is they have a huge system of lenses, flash accessories, things like that. It makes sense they don't want to hurt the sales of SLR bodies, but they didn't integrate it well with the rest of their system. And that's why I think the V and the J series are still such niche products.
That's the problem is you can't take that system and really grow it into a full system or with a big chip. I mean, you just can't go bigger chip. You have to make a whole new line of lenses with a whole new mirrorless product if they wanted to compete with Alpha 6000s and XT1.
Exactly. Like, I think it made sense from a business point of view for them, but people aren't really adopting it. And I think it's all those people with Nikon glass and Nikon accessories saying, I'm not going to jump onto mirrorless until they support the stuff I already threw thousands of dollars at. Okay, so that's Nikon, and they seem to have like a fairly well thought out strategy, even if it's not one I agree with.
Well, I think the reason why Nikon's SLRs are still doing so well is because they're not trying to be competing in the APS-C sensor as much as they're now competing against medium format cameras. They're going after a different market, and Canon hasn't even decided to touch that yet.
Yeah, no, they haven't. And I mean, that's a decision that makes a lot of sense on the SLR side of things, but that still means they're narrowing their market down to, 5 to 2% of photographers. It just seems, again, short-sighted, but not as short-sighted as Canon's mirrorless strategy, which they put their Rebel sensor into a camera that cost more than a Rebel, that did less, couldn't focus. I mean, the firmware helped, but it was still a painfully slow focuser. But here's what I find so frustrating about Canon, is they have 70D sensor out there
Right,
that
which is
enables
great.
incredibly good autofocus right off the chip. That's available to them. They could take the EOS M body, 2 control dials on it, a viewfinder, and that sensor, and everyone would buy one.
Well, that's interesting because you're saying, like, okay, they went the big sensor size. They made lenses and adapters that allow the existing users to adapt to this new camera. That's what you're saying Nikon should have done with their mirrorless.
Yeah.
And it's not working for Canon.
Well,
and I agree with you. They castrated the camera because they didn't want to hurt their SLR market.
And I mean, look at the lens options. If you want a wide-angle lens and you're in the States, they don't even sell it to you.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like the most half-hearted effort as possible to say they've looked
Well,
at
let's go even
mirrorless.
further than that. You
Yep.
can't even get the new EOS M in North America because they just gave up. They're like, no, it's not working.
I mean, maybe they'll do something at Photokina, but it's the weirdest thing where there's no technology needing to be developed. They just take this, they take this, add a few lenses to it, or even sell it with an EOS adapter in the box.
They could have done a great job. I don't get it.
I don't
get
either.
it.
Or even for video, add some good inputs for it. You don't need a viewfinder for that, and they could build a very flexible video system.
Now, okay, but look at something like the 70D in the journalist market.
Okay.
That is still keeping Canon afloat. That's their SLR, and it's doing very, very well. And the journalists are eating that up because it is an amazing video camera. You get great focusing. I mean, it's getting better, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great for run and gun on the 70D,
Yeah.
but that's still their entry-level camera. They're not offering it on their professional cameras yet, which are what the journalists would probably prefer to be using.
What about Canon? They've already kind of tried to address this in the video. They've got cameras like the C100,
Right.
the C300, the EOS Cinema. I mean, they've got these cameras.
They're trying to address that broadcasting market,
Right.
but they've really abandoned the lower-end people, the people who bought. I know so many people who started filmmaking with Rebel T2Is
Sure,
and
T2i.
T3Is, and they have nothing to support those people anymore. They've basically said, if you want our cutting-edge tools, and they're not even that cutting edge anymore,
That's
honestly,
true.
then you've got
Yeah.
to buy a Canon C100. Even if you want to get a flat profile, you have to do this. And what's also frustrating about Canon's mindset is we know their cameras can do better. Magic Lantern hacks them. We can get better image quality out of
Yeah.
it. All these kind of tools. And so we know Canon's just handicapping these cameras
That's true.
to push people to go further. And Nikon's doing something else. They're just looking at what Canon's doing.
Yeah, Nikon's been trying to improve cameras like the D810. They're starting to add certain, flatter profiles and slow motion and stuff. But you're right, it's far behind.
Behind everything else that everyone else is doing. When you've got people innovating with
And the codecs
GH4s
aren't
and
great.
A7Ss, yeah, and the codecs aren't fantastic either. It looks like they look at what Canon is currently doing and they say, oh, we'll do something
Gotta
roughly
keep
the
up with
same.
that.
But the difference is Canon has to protect their cinema series. Nikon has nothing to protect. So they could be innovating in a huge way
Sure.
on their
Like
DSLRs.
Panasonic is doing and Sony's doing. I mean, everybody's going to those cameras now.
Exactly, or even their V cameras. We know could be amazing for video capture if Nikon would just ask some video professionals what they want and implement those changes, as opposed to just looking at what Canon's doing and maybe going a hair more advanced.
I still think that you're going to have a major issue when we talk about these kind of things for video, because it sounds like you're suggesting that, okay, we use the same batteries, great, and we let users transfer over existing lenses,
Yep.
right? So are you saying get rid of the mirror boxes but keep the same flange distance? Because the Pentax KO1 is an absolute piece of garbage.
Right, because
And
they
that's
made
what they tried to do.
Because they made a bunch of short-sighted decisions. So on the pro side of things, what I think Nikon and Canon, one of them could do, is they take all their lenses, all their accessories that they've refined. They've got this body design that they've just fine-tuned through years and years, maintain all of that, just take the mirror box out of it. Or even make a hybrid viewfinder like the X100 or the X Pro 1 does. Take those, and now everything that people already have will work, but you can shoot video with the viewfinder, you can preview your exposure through the viewfinder.
Yeah.
You don't have all these phase detect, oh, I need to micro adjust my lens issues. Contrast detect is so accurate. And you look at cameras, even like Nikon's own V3, it's such a fast focuser with contrast and phase detect
Okay,
hybrid.
look-
They could absolutely just stick that into one of their pro bodies, and it'd be an amazing camera.
Your idea is gloriously stupid for a few reasons. Because, okay, I understand. You're basically saying go mirrorless, but keep the same flange distance, keep the camera the same.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the smaller size advantage. I know that's not a big deal.
It's not.
No,
I mean, for someone who's just shooting family and kids, yeah, smaller's better. But if
here
you're going to
are
be
the-
dragging around a 70 to 200 lens, how is a camera that's slightly smaller going to make that much of a difference?
It's
when the
not.
ergonomics are so
But
good.
what about the fact, okay, we know that the contrast detection is going to be a better system, right? For
It's more accurate.
But you're going to have to stick with the old lenses. You're going to have to stick with the large size lenses. You're going to have to stick with these old rigs, these core rigs that we've been using for SLRs. And not because they're a better option, but because they're a solution to a very unergonomic poor interface
But
for video.
but if I can put my Pro SLR up to my eye, do I have as much use for a rig unless I'm adding follow focus or matte box to it?
Of course you do.
No, because I know you're putting
you
it up
need
to your eye and
separate
it's
monitors. You want to look on those. You're going to be using rigs, and we're talking about pro gear. Then that's what it's going to be doing. You're also leaving out now the opportunity to make another mirrorless market for the amateurs, the enthusiasts, okay? Because now you're just saying only pros. They take the SLRs, they go video. You're leaving out all those
you're completely
people.
misinterpreting what the entry level. Make those mirrorless cameras, for the entry levels and the enthusiasts, but for the professionals who have tens of thousands of dollars invested in these systems, give them the advantages of mirrorless in a form factor where they can use everything that they already own. It's not going to cost that much. It's simply a body, but it would completely open up their line to videographers, landscape shooters who love working with contrast detect.
You're cute, but you're cute when you're angry. But here's the thing: you're now just taking an old dinosaur, and it's like you're putting a gasoline engine to an old dinosaur and hoping it's gonna run faster. Yeah, I think they should go mirrorless. I think if, for example, Nikon made an XT1-esque camera that looked like a Nikon FM2, they would sell hundreds of thousands, if not millions of units. I mean, it would be amazing.
Based on the fact
you could throw on your old lenses, you could make new lenses. Hell, they're all manual focus. It'd be sweet.
Right. I mean, it would be interesting if they did something too with a variable flange distance. That would be really cool. Use your old lenses with this, flip a switch, it recesses into the body, and use the new small lenses.
I think Nikon and Canon don't want to do this because it's a pride issue. It's not that they don't want to make innovative products. It's just they don't want to follow other people, even though they probably should right now.
Right.
They want to be Nikon and Canon, make something that nobody else has, and lead the market. They're too proud not to have that attitude. And so they're going to just try to mystify people into saying, we're still leading the market in SLRs as they, go down to the depths of the ocean, never to be seen again. Right?
Yeah, and what's funny with Canon, I could see that with Nikon because they've kept the Nikon F mount forever. But Canon, you have to remember, said, we've got this FD mount, we're throwing all that away and starting from scratch. And it basically made them into the biggest photography company in the world. Right. Now would be the perfect time for them to do something innovative like that as well.
Great, but that's
I'm just saying as a...
I know.
Yeah, okay.
Well, here's the thing. I think the best answer is Nikon and Canon should be just like Toyota and Subaru, and they should come together, and they should combine their technology and make a beautiful car, and then they can brand it as a Canon, blah, 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 and as a Nikon, blah, 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 but it's the same camera, and then everybody would be happy. It's
like a Hasselblad and a Sony is what you're proposing.
No, not like Hasselblad and their Sony stuff. But I guess what really matters is, viewers at home, let us know what you think as well, right? I mean, we've been talking about this. What do you think Canon and Nikon have to do? Put it in the comments below.
These are things that we came up with in about 5 minutes while drinking beer. Some of you have probably put more thought into this.
Yeah, and some of you might have been drinking a lot more beer than we have so far.
I want to know what you guys think. What do we want to see from Canon and Nikon? Make some comments below.
Yes. Otherwise, get ready for our drone video. That should hopefully be fun, unless we crash them all.
Absolutely.
And more to come after that, of course.
Photokina's coming. There's going to be some cool stuff.
Yeah, we're going to be busy boys. Thank you very much for watching After Dark with us, and we will see you guys very soon.
Subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.